Formed in 1901, the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland is the world's eldest professional golfers association. Headquartered at the famous Ryder Cup venue, the Belfry in the English Midlands, the PGA of GB&I now has in excess of 8,000 members. More than 1,600 of them work overseas in no fewer than 80 countries. An executive member of the Asian Golf Industry Federation, the PGA is one of golf's most prominent bodies and is committed to growing and developing the game in the United Kingdom and internationally through the expertise of its professionals. The man at the helm who is driving the PGA forward is Robert Maxfield. Currently boasting a +4 handicap, Rob is now in his 15th year with the PGA, the last 4 of which have been as chief executive. A very warm welcome, Rob, and perhaps you can start off by outlining the PGA's rich history.
Great, thanks Spencer, and thanks ever so much for inviting me on the call. And we're absolutely honoured and delighted to be a member of the AGIF, and you know, all the networking that we've missed over the years. I guess we've got this opportunity to meet on calls like this, but it's but really appreciate you taking the time, Spencer, to speak to me. So the PGA formed in 1901, the oldest PGA in the world. It was the first PGA. We actually call ourselves the PGA because we were the first. You get the PGA of America, South Africa, Australia, Canada, and so on, New Zealand, and many others. There are about 50 other PGAs around the world, but we started with humble beginnings, really. It was a group of PGA professionals that got together in the London area. Golf at the time was booming. There were many golf courses in Great Britain and Ireland in particular that were built around about the turn of the 20th century. And golf was booming and an industry was starting to form. And many of those PGA professionals felt that they should get together and form a collective group, an association. They formed the association in around, I think it was about September 1901. That organisation had humble beginnings. There were just a few members. There was the great triumvirate that actually started the association, Braid, Varden and Taylor. It started off with a few dozen members and they had some very clear principles. They never wanted to be a trade union. They didn't ever want to be lobbying for their own membership. But what they wanted is they wanted to be able to help each other and help the industry. They put some sound principles in place. They wanted to be able to support each other through education. Education at the time was more sharing knowledge. It wasn't the formal education that we see today. They wanted to be able to communicate with each other and they wanted to be able to support the facilities. In the early days, the PGA members made golf balls, they made golf clubs. They certainly weren't managing facilities as they are today. So it was very, very different then. And many of those early PGA professionals were players, of course, and certainly Braid, Varden and Taylor earned their living from playing the game. The game then evolved and developed quite considerably in those first few years with lots of new facilities growing and more people joined the PGA. And you sort of wind the clock forward, I guess, to today. The organisation is very, very different. We've got over 8,000 people, as you say, Spencer, working in 80 countries around the world, about 1,600 members. The same principles, however, apply. It's about us as an organisation supporting our members through education, through communication, through supporting them and helping them grow and evolve their businesses and managers. More and more of them are moving now into management positions in facilities. So it is very, very different, but those same principles apply. I guess at some point in the early days of the association, there wasn't a team of staff. There's now a team of 140 people at the Belfry headquarters. I'm privileged to be able to lead the organisation. And of course, from those early days of our association, PGA members, predominantly from Scotland, travelled the world. They moved to America. There was a boom taking place in golf in America, the same in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. And what happened was that they took the principles of the PGA and they helped countries form other PGAs. And you know, the PGA of America was formed soon after, as was Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many other PGAs. And as I say, there's about 50 PGAs across the world. The really interesting thing is that most of those PGAs follow the same principles. I talk on a very regular basis with PGAs around the world. They all share the very, very much the same principles. They're there to look after members, support members, educate members, and so on. And that's, I think, is testament really to the fact that those our founding fathers very much got it right, and it stood the test of time. Today, it is more sophisticated. The role of the PGA Pro is more sophisticated, possibly than it was in those early days. The diversity of the membership is quite incredible. The PGA members now do something like 80 different jobs in all the countries around the world. Most PGAs around the world have very rock solid educational programs. We have a relationship with the University of Birmingham, which is one of the best universities in the UK. And all of our PGA professionals, and in fact most PGA professionals around the world, have to go through a very comprehensive education program. Ours is a 3-year program. It involves coaching, it involves retailing, it involves the commercial aspects of the game, it involves looking after customers and so on. They come out of it with a very excellent qualification and high-level qualification. Teaching is very important to PGA members nowadays. You know, most of our members would engage in some type of teaching. But the big change, I think, that's taken place over the past 10 or 20 years is that more of our members have diversified. They've diversified into management positions. And in many ways, the growth of our members wanting to go overseas has seen them move into managing big resorts in Asia, managing big resorts in Europe and all around the world. And, you know, and that's not just Great Britain Island members, it's PGA members from other PGAs. And I think because I guess we have such a fantastic education program, the fact that our members understand the game, the fact that our members have very high standards, we expect high standards of them. We have disciplinary codes in place. If members step out of line, we deal with them. You know, we have a very ethical and very really high morals and standards within the organization. I think those standards travel well, and you know, members that have moved into Asia and various other countries have done particularly well. And it's also interesting as well that we have a commitment not just to grow the game in Great Britain and Ireland, but also support our partners around the world. And that's where, you know, this great relationship that we have with the AGIF is so important to us. And many of our members, you know, working in countries have helped set up PGAs in those countries. They want to work with the locals. You know, I'm a great believer that, you know, if a country is evolving, it's golf, it's golf, the amount of courses that it has. It ought to be for that country to manage their own affairs. You know, in the early stages, you maybe need some other PGA members to come in, but longer term, you know, it's down to the locals. It's down to, I guess, myself and my organization and our members putting our arm around locals and trying to support and help them. You know, that's what this game is about. It's about collaboration. It's about working together, and it's just about doing as much as we can for the good of our game.
What a fantastic overview. Thanks for that, Rob. But before we delve a little bit into the PGA's 2020 vision, which I know has been a major project that you've embarked on, I just want to focus a little bit more on the PGA's international reach that you've spoken about. And clearly you have more PGA members now working internationally than ever before. You referenced some of them in Asia, and we've worked very closely with Paul Burley, Mark Rees, Paul Wilson, Peter Downey, Paul Gibbons. And as you say, they all have very diverse roles, not just as playing professionals, but in retail and many other facets. Is their success in Asia an inspiration for other PGA members to follow? Oh,
it is actually. You talk about the guys that you've mentioned, I know very well. I get hairs on the back of my neck. I am so proud of the work that these individuals do, and absolutely they inspire. And I think one of the benefits of the association and all PGAs for that matter, not just our PGA, is the camaraderie between PGA members. And I know, you know, all of the people that you've mentioned and many others do support and help those younger members that do want to go and work overseas. And you talk about, you know, Paul Gibbons. I mean, he manages some massive retail outlets in Malaysia. You know, it's you know, Paul Burley managing lots and lots of facilities through his management company. You know, they've got huge experience. Peter Downey working at Clearwater Bay. You know, massive amounts of experience, and you know, bringing on not just local members but also bringing on younger people. I know Peter in particular at Clearwater Bay. He brings in apprentices from Britain and all over the world, and he educates them and develops them and gives them opportunities. And I think that's one of that's one of the lovely things in life, isn't it? If you can mentor and support somebody and you can see them grow, it's so important. And certainly all of the people that you've just mentioned have absolutely done that in spades.
It's interesting you say that about the internships, because I was going to ask how specifically you, as the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland, can help your members in terms of overseas job placements.
Yeah, we do it a lot, actually, Spencer. I mean, again, a big commitment of ours, one of those founding principles was to find employment for members. So that's an important principle of us for us. And I know Matt Davies that does an incredible job looking after all of our overseas members, our international members. You know, Matt will work with members. He'll find out where they need some support. We'll advertise that support to some of our students. Quite often it is the students and the younger members that are coming through the association, and they love to travel. And I think that's one of the big changes I've seen in certainly my time at the PGA. I can remember those early days meeting PGA members and when they were first coming through training and asking them what they wanted to do. And most of them wanted to coach, most of them in Great Britain and Ireland. Yeah. I used to ask them to stick their hand up. Who wants to coach? Most of them would put their hand up. Who wants to play? Most of them would put their hand up. Who wants to go and work overseas? Very few would put their hand up. Who wants to be a manager? Nobody would put their hand up. And I do the same. I've done the same over the last couple of years. And I ask the same questions. Very few of them now want to play golf, because I think they see a career in golf, not necessarily playing. It is difficult, as you know, to earn a living playing the game. But I asked them that same question, who wants to work overseas? And I say 80% of them put their hand up. You know, who wants to be a manager? The same. So having that desire to go work overseas, but having a brilliant network of members overseas, and then trying to connect them. And Matt's done a brilliant job with that. And we've given people some great experiences, and they've gone on and you know, either work for Peter or anybody else for that matter, and they've stayed, and they've got some decent jobs and decent experience. And I was thinking, I've traveled in Asia a lot. I've traveled all over the world, and you look at some of the facilities in particular in Asia, they are just incredible. And the experience that you get, the standards of service that you get in particular in some of these facilities is just world class. And you know, we're all in the hospitality industry. We're all there to deliver great service. And you know, having that experience of working in some of these facilities, very, very high-end facilities, dealing with very, very high-end customers, you know, customer experience is absolutely paramount. You know, just gives those experiences to people that, you know, that will just stand them in absolutely brilliant stead for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. I've got a two-part question, and again, quite a few friends of mine in Asia have asked me to ask you. First of all, what are the main qualifications or criteria required to become a PGA member? And I've had friends of mine who are Asian professionals who are starting out looking for a career in golf, and they're saying to me, are they eligible to apply to join the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland? And if so, what steps do they take?
Yeah, that they are actually. Yeah, so we take in about 300 trainees a year. A number of those trainees come from our international students. I know other PGAs around the world have international students, but yes, absolutely. There's a number of stipulations. They need to be working under a training professional, and again, because we've got such high standards, they would need to find a training professional, and they'd need to find somebody that can mentor them, somebody that can help and support them through their education, and that's an important factor actually, because what we've evolved, I think, very, very well, and other PGAs have evolved very, very well over the years, is they've evolved a great education program. But to me, and I'm quite a practical person. I don't like sitting in classrooms. One of the most fundamental and important factors in our education is not necessarily education itself, but it's then taking what you learn in a classroom or what you learn on a webinar and putting it into practice. So having a mentor, having a PGA professional that is there to help and support you through your training and take all of those learnings in the classroom and on webinars and put them into practice is incredibly important. So first thing is you are going to need a training professional. Most PGAs, our PGA is no different than this. We have a handicap specification. Our handicap is 6 for men and 8 for women. So you need to come in with either a 6 handicap or 8 handicap. Most of the other PGAs are around about that mark. round about that mark on playing ability. And then the other factor is they need to have an academic qualification. In Great Britain and Ireland, we have what we call GCSEs, and though, I mean, there will be the same equivalents in other countries, the individual needs 5 GCSEs, one of which is maths and one of which is English. And once they've got those qualifications, and once they've got that playing standard in golf, they can come into training. And we welcome in open arms. I mean, this type of technology now makes it easy to talk to people all around the world. But yes, absolutely. And that would apply, as I say, with any other PGA.
That's great. Well, what's the basis of the relationship then with Birmingham University? Can students from Asia go there to study in golf professional management?
Yeah, we now have, Spencer. We have two types. We're going to evolve more, and we'll maybe talk about that a little bit later. But we have 2 main routes into PGA membership. Matt Davis, who I've mentioned a couple of times, it looks after our international members. Matt went through what we call our AGMS qualification, our Applied Golf Management Studies education. Matt attended the University of Birmingham on a full-time basis. Matt ended up with a degree in Applied Golf Management Studies, which covers all of the aspects of managing golf facilities and being involved in the business of golf. And that's at full degree level. Matt didn't have to have that training professionally because he studied full-time at the University of Birmingham. But we also, in addition to that, we recognise when we developed the relationship with the University of Birmingham that not everybody wants to go and study in university. Many others want to study in the workplace. So we developed what we call a foundation degree, which is actually 2/3 of a degree. So the relationship with the University of Birmingham is we deliver our PGA foundation degree in partnership with them. So the individual would work in a facility, they would study in their own time. It's distance learning, so you don't have to attend the university. But at the end of the 3-year program, you walk away with a foundation degree from the University of Birmingham. And once you've got that foundation degree and once you've got the AGMS qualification, you are then eligible to come into full membership of the PGA. One of the things that we've introduced recently, which is becoming very, very popular, is as well as the AGMS, which is a full degree, the foundation degree, as I said earlier, is 2/3 of a degree. We've now offered a top-up for the foundation degree. So somebody can start working in a facility in Asia or any part of the world, in Great Britain and Ireland. They can do the foundation degree, and they can then move on to doing the full degree. And at the end of that, they will get a degree from a university, as well as getting all the PGA elements, like the coaching elements. They get a full degree from a university. And I think, most people in society now, most young people want some type of education. Maybe it's at degree level, maybe not. But to get a degree from, or a foundation degree from one of the best universities in Great Britain, and in fact, one of the best universities in the world, is really, really important, I think, if you're going to move into our industry.
That's great. Changing tack slightly, these past 18 months have been especially tough for the golf industry with the COVID-19 pandemic. How has the PGA been able to support its members through this difficult period?
Yeah, it's been a real challenge, hasn't it? I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago. It's what we I know other countries went into lockdown at different times. We actually went into lockdown on, it's ingrained in everybody's memory, on the 23rd of March, 2020. We went into lockdown. We have a system in place in Great Britain and Ireland where they introduced what they call a furlough scheme. So any business that was affected by the pandemic could what's called furlough their staff. The government would basically pay the wages of their staff. We chose not to furlough many staff in March of last year, because what we felt was we needed to support our members. We didn't furlough the staff. The first thing we did was we tried to try and understand exactly how this pandemic was going to affect the industry and how it was going to affect our members. We tried as best as we could to understand the support available to PGA members. We built what we've called a PGA COVID hub on our PGA website. All of the information that we needed to provide government support, government guidelines, financial support, we built into this hub. So we created this hub. But I think one of the best things that we've ever done, not just during this pandemic, is we tried to phone every single member. We tried to actually call every single member. So we engaged all of our team. People that wouldn't normally speak to members were asked to call members. We divided it all up. And over a period of about 6 weeks, we called every single member. We didn't get through to every single person, as you can imagine, because it's difficult to speak to everybody. But we contacted everybody. We tried to find out what support and help they would need. And we ended up in a situation where about 600 of our 8,000 members needed some specific support. And we gave them the support every support that we could. We've probably gone into overdrive in terms of communication. We actually called the members again at the early part of this year when we went into another lockdown, when there was another spike across the world. And again, the members have been incredibly positive about the education we provided, the connection we provided, the information we provided. It is challenging when you're trying to deal with 80 different countries around the world. It's been impossible to cover every country, but we've tried as best as we could to support our members, and I guess that goes back to certainly one of the philosophies that I wanted to put in place when I started as chief exec in 2017, was we are a members organisation, and something I remind the staff of all the time is the reason that I can come into work and put a tie on and do the great job that I do is because of our members. The reason we exist is because of our members, and I think in many ways the pandemic has allowed us to really, really focus all of the team on the reason that they exist. It's because of our members. All businesses have customers. We have members. Everything that we do as a business, everything that I do in my life, working life, everything that Matt does, everything that everybody else does, we try and come back to the members all the time. And in fact, if it's something that doesn't support the members, I'm quite often challenging my team to say, why are we doing that? Because what is the value to our members? So I think it's allowed us, Spencer, to focus on what is our absolutely primary goal, which is supporting members.
That leads us nicely into your 2020 vision, which the PGA launched, I believe, last December. I know you've spent a huge amount of your time on developing this. Can you tell us a little bit about this initiative?
Yeah, it's interesting. We did a survey when I started in 2017. We did a survey with our membership, 8,000 members. We actually did it with John Bushell, who I know from Sports Marketing Service, who I know AGIF worked with quite a lot. We did this survey. We wanted it to be a comprehensive survey. We wanted to understand what's happening within our membership, what roles our members are playing. We did the survey, and I can remember having the conversation with John. We kept adding the questions to it. It became a 20-minute survey, a 25-minute survey. And I remember John saying to me, nobody's going to fill it in. People do not fill in 20-minute surveys. And we badgered the member. We persevered with it. We sent it out to the membership, and we had more than 50% of the members complete the survey. And I remember John saying to me, he's never known any 20-minute survey where he got 50% of the members. But what it showed is it showed the passion amongst the members to give us information. The value of that survey we still refer back to that survey, but there were some really fundamental things that came out of that survey. The diversity of the roles was one of the things. One of the things that really, really surprised us was that 30% of our members were in some type of management position. And I'm talking about all of our members, Great Britain, Ireland and overseas. 30% of our members were doing some type of management job. Where if you go back, in particular in Great Britain and Ireland, I know Asia is slightly different, but if you go back to Great Britain and Ireland maybe 30 years ago, most members were teaching, most members were maybe the club pro, most members were running their own retail outlets. They wouldn't be running the facilities, they wouldn't be doing management jobs. That's the biggest change that I think has taken place in the association. So we looked at this. The other couple of really, really interesting things that came out of the survey is that members wanted to be able to specialise. Members wanted to be able to differentiate themselves from fellow members. We've got, up until the 2020 vision, we had a very, very much a one-dimensional membership. Every one of our members was called a PGA professional, PGA member, PGA professional. Even if they were doing a management job or even if they were coaching, they were called a PGA professional. we took the stuff that came out of the survey and we started to talk to members. And what became very, very apparent is that the current training that we deliver, which is predominantly in those traditional aspects of retail, coaching, club fitting and so on, is not necessarily applicable to everybody that wants to come through our education. Because many people just want to be a coach, many people just want to be a manager. So what we're now starting to do, and this is part of the 2020 vision, we haven't actually built this out yet, but we're moving in this direction. We are going to be delivering, as of 2022, an education that is diverse insofar as that an individual can specialize in management education, or they can specialize in coach education, or they can do the traditional route. So it allows the member to be able to specialize. The other thing that the members wanted to be able to do is differentiate themselves. Not everybody is that traditional PGA professional. So we've now created within 2020 Vision 3 distinct areas of core membership. So a PGA professional can now call themselves a PGA professional, as they were. They can also now call themselves a PGA manager. They can call themselves a PGA coach. And I know you mentioned Paul Gibbons earlier. Paul is a master professional. We actually went to all of our master professionals and we said, you know, Paul, do you want to be called a master professional anymore? Paul doesn't coach anymore. Paul's not the traditional PGA member. Paul's actually opted now to call himself a PGA master manager. So Paul is now referenced as a PGA manager. So the 2020 Vision has given us that opportunity to split the membership and start to explain to the industry exactly the roles that the PGA member does. So that's been a fundamental principle. If you then look at further education, and I know the AGIF do a wonderful job with further education. I think that's one of the reasons that we wanted to connect with you guys, is that the education that you provide in greenkeeping and facility management is second to none. Is our further education, again, was tended to be predominantly around coaching, around the traditional aspects of PGA professional. So the 2020 Vision, we've developed a new learning platform. We call it PGA Learn. And there is now education in there. There's something like 1,000 different elements of education where if you're a manager, you can go and learn how to write a business plan. If you're a manager, you can go and learn how to design a facility, let's say. If you're a coach, you can go and learn specific coaching stuff. So 2020 Vision divided the membership, allowed them to demonstrate their specialist knowledge and education. It also allowed us to develop our education in a slightly different route. But in looking at this, one of the big challenges that we've started to see over the last few years within PGA membership is that at the moment that in the past, to be a PGA member, you had to be a professional golfer. Now, I've used Paul Gibbons' name a couple of times. If I take Paul as an example, and you know, Paul is a decent player, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying he doesn't play golf for a living. So somebody like Paul doesn't earn money playing the game. Paul doesn't coach any longer. So there's no real need for Paul and many other PGA professionals to be professional golfers. So we're finding that we're losing more and more of our members to the amateur game, where they either want to play with their wife, their partner, their husband, their children as amateur golfers, and they don't tend to quite often be able to do that as a PGA professional. So we've now we wanted that therefore to create a section within our membership structure that allowed those individuals that want to gain their amateur status back to still sit within the PGA family. So we created what we call the PGA Business Management Group. So we've now got the Business Management Group that allows a PGA member, if they want to be an amateur, to move into the Business Management Group. They still maintain that connection with the PGA. They still get the access to PGA Learn and the education and various other things, but they can do that as an amateur golfer. We also then recognize that with the expertise that we developed over many years, that we've got 8,000 members working in, as we say, 80 countries around the world. If you take Great Britain and Ireland, we've got something like 6,000 or just over 6,000 members working in Great Britain and Ireland. There are 100,000 people working in the golf industry. many of those individuals haven't got an association that they can join. I worked at the Belfry as an amateur golfer. I was director of golf at the Belfry. There was no association that I could join. I couldn't join the PGA. So we've now opened the business management group up to the wider industry. So anybody working in the industry, yourself, Spencer, or Eric, or anybody else for that matter, can come and join the business management group, and they can start to gain access to our education and various other things. The other thing we recognised, in particular in Great Britain and Ireland, was that the game is supported by volunteers. There are about 40,000 volunteers working in golf clubs in Great Britain and Ireland. So we've now created a separate group called Club Volunteer by PGA. So what we've now got as an organisation, we've got an ability for our members to be able to specialise. We've got an ability for our members to be able to state if they're a manager, a coach, or a professional. But wider than that, we've now got a membership structure that allows anybody that works in the business of golf to come and have a relationship with the PGA and access all of the wonderful services and support that people like Matt Davies and the rest of the team deliver to us. And it's taken us 2 years to deliver it. It's been very, very comprehensive. I think it's been the biggest change. It's been the biggest change in the association's history in over 100 years, this. And as you can imagine, and as a members organisation, Spencer, an absolutely fundamental aspect of this was bringing our members along with this. We absolutely wanted our members to be supportive of it. We didn't want our members we didn't want to be, I guess, doing something that our members didn't agree with. And I guess one of the most satisfying things out of this process is all we've seen from PGA members and the wider industry is positivity. We've had, I'd like to say, no positivity. I think it probably is no negativity. You know, it's only been positivity around this. No negativity around it. The industry have bought into it. Our members have bought into it. And I think it allows the association to have a broader reach, which I think in today's world is really important.
Fabulous. Oh, well, best of luck with rolling all of that out as you go forward. I know before COVID, you staged a couple of PGA conferences here in Asia at Laguna Phuket. How did you view those gatherings, and do you plan on reviving them in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, they were great. We run, because we're based in England. Great Britain and Ireland is our home base, you might say. We do regular meetings with members in the UK. It's very easy, face to face. I think it's nowadays with this technology, it's easy to do things remotely. But we very, very much felt that we wanted to do something for the overseas members. Our biggest region, we have 7 regions. Our biggest region is our overseas region. And one of the things when I came in as chief executive, I couldn't quite get my head around was we have regions. We have England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. We have it broken down into 7 regions. We have a regional team that looks after each region, but we didn't have anybody that looks after the overseas members. It just seems strange to me, our biggest block of people. So we appointed Matt Davies. Matt has done a brilliant job. And one of the first things that Matt started to talk about was doing an overseas event. So we did the event at Laguna Phuket. They've been a brilliant partner for us. We've done, I think it's 3 events. Maybe 2. I think it's 3, but those 3 events have been fantastic. You know, Eric attended a couple of the events. You know, you guys are an important partner of ours. We've delivered education. We got people coming in from China. We got people coming in from Australia. We also invited other PGAs to come in as well. We had PGA of America members, PGA of Australia members. We had a really good connection. And as you imagine it, when you're spending 3 days with somebody, it isn't just about work in the classroom. It's about having a few beers at night. It's about sharing experiences. And I think, you know, out of that, you know, I got to know some of the individuals that you talked about earlier, Spencer. I think we've developed great friendships with them. I think they've developed great friendships. We had one individual, I'll never forget, we had one individual that worked in Great Britain and Ireland that said, I'm going to go to the event because I want to find some work. And this individual went to the event and got a job on the back of the event. So it's brilliant. But I think just coming together and sharing those wonderful experiences, and in particular, the thing that stands out for me most is the group of people that came together, the expertise, hairs on the back of my neck again, the expertise and knowledge that these individuals have got. You know, I tip my hat to them. I'm just so privileged to lead this organization and have members in the organization with such incredible knowledge, incredible expertise, doing some of the biggest jobs in Asia and around the world. And are we going to do it again? Absolutely, we're going to do it again. Can we do it again this year? I just do not know. If we can, we will. If not, we'll certainly do it in future years, because it's such a brilliant, brilliant event.
Right. Well, we'll certainly be there for that. Speaking at the recent online Golf Bit conference, you said some very interesting comments, and among them, you said golf really has to shake its label as a middle-class, male-dominated sport. I guess the question is, are we on the right track to becoming more diverse and inclusive?
I think people are saying the right thing. People are saying the right thing. People are saying we need to be more diverse. We need to encourage more women, more juniors, more girls, into more families. I think we've got to put it into practice, and I don't see enough of it being put into practice. I think there are some brilliant examples where it is put into practice. I just don't think there's enough of it. And I think the worry for me is that I think this boom around the world, and there is a boom around the world, I think has helped. I think people have come to golf, maybe that didn't play golf in the past, that maybe played cricket, football. I know families have come in. I know at my own golf club, we've seen a swell in our junior section. We've seen more girls come in. We've seen more women come in. We've got now this opportunity to embrace these individuals and look after them in a way that they've never been looked after before, and keep them in our game. But we have to change and be different. We have to be welcoming to them. And that's the big worry for me, that we don't adapt and change in a way that we need to adapt and change. Great example, Spencer. There just needs to be more of it. There just needs to be more of it. And we have to be more inclusive as a game.
Yeah.
Have to be.
And just on that point, dress codes, and I know it's something here in Asia and around the world, and mobile phones, clubs have got to start relaxing those rules, don't they?
Oh, I've got some personal experience of this. My lad, I've played golf since I was 2 or 3 years of age. I've got a daughter who plays. I've got a lad that plays now. My lad would not play golf for one reason, because the golf club made him tuck his shirt in.
Crazy.
I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Crazy.
They've now relaxed it. He can now open his shirt. It's ridiculous. So to stop somebody playing golf because you can't tuck your shirt in, and he actually wears some, he's one of these young people that likes to wear logos. They're actually nice shirts that he wears. We have to relax it. The days of, I mean, the old-fashioned, some of those British rules where you can wear shorts, but the shorts have to be to the knee and the socks have to be to the knee. So you're showing 2 inches of flesh. Those days are gone. We have to change. Society is different. Society is very, very different. People are relaxed. People, the days of putting a tie on. I'm one of the few people in our golf industry that wears a tie. We have to change and relax. Dress is so important, and dress in particular is so important to kids.
Great.
And we have to attract more.
Yeah. A couple of final questions. I guess coming back to your role as Chief Executive of the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland, such an influential body, what message would you have for golf course owners and operators, particularly here in Asia, about the benefits of employing a PGA member?
Yeah, I think, and again, it's not just about our members, it's about all PGA members. We have important relationships with Australia and Canada, as I say, and South Africa and America and others. Yeah, I mean, it's when you're in the early stages of growing an industry, and many are. I look at the golf development that's happening as an example in Vietnam. It's massive golf. I mean, this goes back to I guess the early part of the 1900s in the UK, where we had massive amounts of golf development. What's really important, I feel, is that it's one thing to be able to build some of the facilities that these wealthy individuals can build in Asia, and some of the facilities are breathtaking. Absolutely, there's nothing else like it in the world. They are absolutely outstanding. To me, and I'm a hotelier. My background is hotels. You've got to have the right bricks and mortar, I think, to attract the right people. But to me, the most once you've done that, and in some ways, if you've got the money to do it, you can build great facilities. The most fundamental thing for me is making sure that you've got the right workforce. You have to have the right workforce. And to have the right workforce, and this is where I think one of the challenges that I guess the Asian region faces, is quite often you haven't got that experienced workforce. You haven't got those individuals that have maybe grown up playing the game. And to me, I think that's where the PGA professional can play such an important part. They have grown up playing the game. They do understand the game. They understand the customer, and they can then work with the local workforce. They can engage, employ, educate the local workforce to support, looking after the customers, looking after the golfers. But you've got to get that professional workforce in place. And I think in particular, my organisation, the other PGAs I've mentioned, they've got people that have that desire to want to work overseas at all levels as well. You can. It's not just at the higher level. It's not just getting somebody to come in and manage the facility, but you can get somebody to come in and teach, somebody to run the caddy operation. I think having that blend of experienced PGA professionals in your facility, working with locals, working with people and trying to educate and develop them and grow the local workforce, I think is such a fundamental thing. I see it quite often. You walk into some of these facilities that are, as I say, they are breathtakingly unbelievable. And the service doesn't match the facility. If you can get the two right, if you can get the facility right and the workforce right, and I think that's where the PGA professionals and managers and others can support and help, that's when you get things right. And you look at great facilities that have got it right, and that's how they grow their business.
Yeah. Now, importantly, as we all know in the golf industry, the PGA of Great Britain and Ireland was fundamental in the launching of the Ryder Cup. Now, given your inside information, we need an informed prediction from you for this year's event, Rob. How's that going to go for us European fans?
We're obviously going to win, aren't we? It'll be interesting actually, because Whistling Straits, of course, and the event is going to happen. The PGA of America have confirmed the event's going to happen. You do laugh and joke about it, and we were the founding partners. Actually, Samuel Ryder. If we've got time, Spencer, I'd just love to talk a little bit about Samuel Ryder. So Samuel Ryder, 1920. There was a match that took place in 1921, and it was a match at Glen Eagles. And at the time, I talked earlier about PGA professionals being the players, and what used to happen was that the Americans would come over to predominantly play in the Open. They want to play in the Open Championship, and of course they didn't get on planes. I suppose they did in the 1920s, but quite often they travelled over on a boat. So they'd come over to Great Britain and Ireland. They'd play in things like the Open, but they'd also play exhibition matches. So they played these exhibition matches, and one of the exhibition matches that they played was an event at Glen Eagles in 1921. And this event turned into a match between Great Britain and Ireland professionals and American professionals. It wasn't the Ryder Cup at this time. So this event happened, and it didn't then happen again until 1926. And in 1926, the same event happened, but it happened at Wentworth in Surrey in England, close to London. One of the guys that actually played in that event was a guy called Abe Mitchell. And Abe Mitchell was a PGA professional, and he played on the team. And he was coaching an individual called Samuel Ryder, because Samuel Ryder was a very, very wealthy individual, wealthy businessman in England. And he actually made his money on selling seeds. So he's selling these seeds, and he's a very wealthy individual. He'd be one of the people around the world that is, I don't know if he was a billionaire, but he would certainly be a very, very well-known business person in Great Britain and Ireland. And he was stressed with his business. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor actually said to him, to help him with his stress, you should play golf. I think that increases your stress levels when you play golf. Anyway, so he started playing golf, and he started to play golf. And one of the things that was suggested to him, he should have some lessons. And Abe Mitchell, the PGA professional who played in this match in 1926, gave Samuel Ryder some lessons. So he gave him some lessons, and he invited him to that match in 1926 at Wentworth. So they played the game. The game was great. Samuel Ryder was new into the game. They went in, as you quite often do after a game, into the clubhouse and had a cup of tea or a glass of wine or a whiskey or whatever it was. And they started to talk. And Samuel Ryder stood up and said, "This has been absolutely wonderful. You must do it again." And there was a guy called, there was his name escapes me. He'll come to me in a minute. The PGA professional that went with. Oh, his name will come to me. And he said, but we would play again, Mr. Ryder, but we don't have a trophy. And he said, if you play again, I will donate a trophy. And he commissioned the Ryder Cup. He commissioned the Ryder Cup, and the Ryder Cup at the time was, I think it cost a few £100 to make. It's a solid gold trophy. He commissioned the Ryder Cup, and he actually gave the PGA, gave my organisation the Ryder Cup. We still have the deed of trust. It's about so big. We have this deed of trust written out by Samuel Ryder, and he gave us the trophy. And that trophy then became ours in 1927. The match kept on getting played. The Americans kept beating us all the time, which is why I think, we deserve a few wins here, although we have done pretty well over the years. He gave us the trophy. And then, of course, in 1979, with Seve coming into the game and so on, the match was extended to a European team. And I think that made such a big difference for us. We won the match back after many years at the Belfry in 1985. And thankfully, we won many matches since. So my prediction is, I think it'll be I hope we win. I think it will be a tight game. The interesting thing at Whistling Straits, and the interesting thing, of course, around the world now is that, you go to play Whistling Straits, many of the European team will have played Whistling Straits. It was interesting in Paris, actually. I think in Paris, I think a good proportion of the Americans hadn't played Paris, which is actually quite unusual nowadays. But it's just a brilliant event. And I always think it's one of those events that, we have some wonderful championships around the world. The event is one of those events that brings a non-golfer to the audience. And I always say, my poor old granny isn't with us any longer. She used to watch the Ryder Cup. She never played golf. She used to love the Ryder Cup. And I think that's the one thing that the Ryder Cup does, I think, for the world of golf. I think it brings an audience to a match that like no other event. But we'll certainly be cheering we're not in the European Union anymore, but we're still part of Europe. We'll still be here in the European team, we promise.
Rob Maxfield, Chief Executive of the Professional Golfers Association of Great Britain and Ireland. Many, many thanks. We hope and look forward to seeing you back in Asia sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Spencer. Can I thank the AGIF, and we became a partner. Oh gosh, when we met Eric, I think at that first event, Eric, 3 years ago, we became a partner. And I'm a great believer in, and this is something I've learned over many years. If you're going to go and work somewhere in the world, you have to have the right partner. You have to have the right people on the ground. And, you've been such a great partner to us. You've been, in particular with Matt, and the support you've provided, the education you provide. We want to work a lot closer with him when we can meet face to face. But, we're absolutely honoured to be a partner. We're honoured to be a member. We're honoured, and being allowed to do things like this is really, really important to us, and talking to your other partners. But, just congratulations on everything that you do, because you do such a wonderful job. Thank you.
Great note to finish on. Many thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Spencer.
Cheers.